Yo, what's good? Big Z here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this. So the song is called Work For You by Medasin. It's off his new EP, Irene. He's a sick producer. I'm sure you guys all know him. He's a really unique producer, so it's hard to remake his tracks, but hopefully I did some justice. As always, all the MIDI files and serum patches will be linked down below. So the main part of this drop is basically these synth wobbles trading off back and forth between each other. So let's get into how the first wobble is made. Here's what it sounds like by itself. So as you can see, the MIDI notes are just playing a straight chord the whole time right here. And that's because in Serum, I have this LFO controlling everything. Oscillator A is just a sine wave from the basic shapes wavetable, except I have this bend plus minus feature that's moved almost all the way to the left to give it a different character. Both these oscillators have 7 voices of unison. In oscillator B, I'm using the ooh ya ooh wavetable from the vowel section. So I have this weird looking LFO down here that's controlling the cutoff of the low pass 12 envelope. What I did was set the rate of this LFO to 1/8 note, and it looks like this funky shape because if you set it to 1/16 note and it was just playing straight 1/16 notes, it wouldn't get that swinging feel that these wobbles have. So I set it to 1/8, and these are slightly offset now instead of being in the same position in a row. In the effects section, I have some bit crusher on there, and I also have a formant filter on there as well. One of the things that gives Medasin's music its unique sound is all the bit crusher he uses on his synths. So I'm not sure if he uses bit crusher native in his synths or if he has a specific plugin he always uses, but he always has really nice sounding bit crusher on his sounds. And because of that, I not only have bit crusher from Serum, I also have more bit crusher from Logic's bit crusher. So I'll show you what the sound sounds like with and without all this bit crusher on it. And here's with. So you can see the bit crusher just adds a ton of character to the sound and gives it that Medasin feel that we're looking for. After the bit crusher, I have some EQ and some OTT on there. Alright, the next wobble I'll do sounds like this. And that's a very similar sound to the first sound. It's the same LFO and everything, but except having the sine wave on oscillator A, I changed it to the doodah choir wave in the vowel section. Everything else with the effects and the LFO and the cutoff and everything is the exact same as the first wobble I showed you. It's also processed the same way with the same bit crusher, EQ, and OTT on there. And he just uses this different wobble to give the different sections of the drop a new feel and keep things interesting. Now there's one more synth wobble that's playing lower in the mix the whole time, but gives more body to those original wobbles I just showed you. So this one isn't as smooth as the other two wobbles, and you can see that by the LFO I use here. The peaks of the LFO aren't smoothed out like the other LFOs I showed you. They're more plucky sounding. So in this one I used a saw wave for this. I have the LFO modulating the detune of the saw wave and also the cutoff of the filter. In the effects section I have bit crusher as well, but I've also have this formant filter that I've turned up all the way. I'll show you what it sounds like with and without the formant filter. It gives it a more dreamy, airy type sound. On this one I also have more bit crusher from Logic. I have some EQ and I have some OTT as well. So in between those synth wobbles there's some pauses where the synths aren't playing. So he fills those up with a brass stab and then a reverse synth to follow it up. So you can find a ton of different brass stabs on Splice or different sample packs. So just throw it in your sampler and you can mess around with it. I forget where I got this one from exactly, but it was definitely off of Splice's website. So underneath the synths there's an 808, and the 808 sounds like this. And that's an 808 layered with a different synth that I made. So the 808 is just a standard 808. It's probably like a Lex Luger one I downloaded off Splice. But you want to make sure there's a little glide on the 808 to give it some movement. And just to add some higher frequencies to the 808, I added this 808 layer, which is just a saw wave. There's nothing fancy going on. It just adds a little high end to the sub and makes it stand out in the mix more. Alright, that's pretty much it for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Spotify below. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.